This episode is brought to you by the 10th Annual Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival. The Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival brings together filmmakers from around the globe to share the impactful and harrowing corruption cases that span industries and governments alike. Led by whistleblower, documentarian, author, and Make It podcast guest Michael McCray, the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival screens the work of these brave filmmakers and helps them navigate the often lonely and dangerous world of the whistleblower. And this year will be no different. With more films, forums, breakouts, and panels than ever, this year's summit is poised to be the best of them all. And beginning July 22nd and running through July 31st, registration and tickets to this year's festival can be purchased at www.whistleblowersummit.com. That's whistleblowersummit.com. So whistleblowersummit.com. And registration is entirely free. So I'll say that again. Registration is completely free. With all the screenings and panels being virtual, the barriers to getting involved are all but removed. So again, go to www.whistleblowersummit.com to register for free, and you won't regret it. Again, www.whistleblowersummit.com, and join us at the Make It podcast and Bonsai Creative in attending what is rapidly becoming the most important festival in the United States for the cause of liberty. That's www.whistleblowersummit.com to register free today. This episode is also brought to you by Indie Insights. Indie Insights is our bi-weekly newsletter and love note to the film industry, movies, and the creatives that make them, not to mention you, our esteemed listeners. Inside, you'll find curated industry trends, articles, exclusive commentary, and underappreciated films from filmmakers like you worldwide. And the best part is that it's completely free. So join today at www.bonsai.film. That's BONSAI.film, FILM. So www.bonsai.film. It takes just a few seconds. And once you sign up, you'll get the very next newsletter on Friday morning. It's that simple. Go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights, our bi-weekly newsletter, and join a network of film creatives like yourself. And don't worry, we'll never sell your information or spam you with a bunch of nonsense emails, just the bi-weekly film industry goodness that you need. And if you ever tire of Indie Insights, simply unsubscribe. No gimmicks, no games. So go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights for free. Hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast, and a quick note before we get started. The conversation you're about to hear was recorded on May 1st, 2022. So this would be before the January 6th hearings began. It would be just as Elon Musk announced his plans to acquire Twitter, and certainly before the Uvalde and Highland Park shootings, before those tragedies occurred. And as you listen, you'll realize why I needed to make these notes. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with whistleblower, documentarian, and author Michael McCray. You're listening to Make It, a podcast by Bonsai Creative that helps creatives in film get where they're going faster by sharing the advice, knowledge, and insights of professional creatives across the film industry. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael McCray. I am a documentary filmmaker and I am a film festival organizer. You may know me, you probably know me, well, either from television. I was the spokesperson for the Acorn 8, which was a watchdog group that blew the whistle on the Acorn. That was a very hot topic back in 2008. Or you may know me from the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival, which is the largest gathering of whistleblowers and advocates in the country. Currently, I'm working on my feature-length documentary about whistleblowing, and I'm here to share information about it.
Michael McCray, welcome back to the Make It podcast.
Thank you, Chris.
Anytime. So excited and proud to have you back on the podcast. Our first conversation created a whirlwind of opinions and feedback we got. There's like a current Twitter thread that is nonstop based on our last interview. It continues to grow. It's got like 30 people copied on it now. So it's a machine unto itself, just snowballing, and for good reason. Like you mentioned in our first conversation, you are the real deal. You're not playing a whistleblower on TV. You are the person that's dedicated his life, one of the people that have dedicated their life to the necessity and the necessary action, behavior, life of whistleblowing. You talked about the Whistleblower Summit, and I would love to start there and just I know it's coming up, this year as usual. What is the format this year? Is it all on site? Is it online? Is it hybrid? How is this year's festival going to be organized?
Well, Chris, thank you for asking. I love talking about this. The dates for this year's summit are July 22nd through 31st. And again, as always, we anchor it on the week of July 30th, which is National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. Most people don't know there's such a thing, but there is. This year, I'm especially ecstatic about the collaboration with Bonsai Creative. I think what we're going to do, what we're going to be able to add to the summit this year is something really, really powerful. One of the things that we saw as a commonality between filmmakers, screenwriters, and then also whistleblowers is the need to pitch, the need to be able to effectively pitch their stories. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work with you guys and also the Northeastern Film Lab and have creative workshops so that filmmakers, writers, and whistleblowers can get together and to learn to hone their pitch. So, Chris, I know you're in I know the business that you're in, and you hear a lot of pitches, and sometimes they're not that good. And it's no slight, especially talking about whistleblowers. And the reason that I say that is a lot of times for whistleblowers, they're experiencing PTSD, and they're almost kind of shouting, trying to get somebody to listen to them, and it's not always effective. So I lean into this stuff. So I know the whole journey. I know what they're going through, and I'll give them as much time as I can. But professionals, reporters, journalists, there are other people that they're not going to take the time to go through your suitcase full of documents. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do is try to be able to give people just enough information to get the story out and to get them hooked, and then allow the person to request more information. And we just think that is the one common line between all three of those audiences where we can add value. So there's going to be this basically a creative workshop for the 3 days. I think that's July 20. I think it's the 27th through the 29th. It'll be on the website. Is the kind of creative lab. We're going to start the first 2 days of the summit proper. Those days will be virtual workshops with policymakers. But this year we want to it's the 10th anniversary. And so we're going to be hybrid in the sense that we're going to be back on the Hill on Friday, July 29th, and then at Busboys and Poets on Saturday, July 30th, on National Whistleblower Day. And so what we're planning on doing there is we'll have our closing plenary is going to be hopefully on the Senate side. We're still kind of locking in the rooms. But our capstone event this year is going to be the Whistleblowers and Correspondents Solidarity Dinner. And so I know you just, and I know you're up on the news, Chris, so you just watched the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And one of the things that always gets us is you have this dinner with policymakers, with journalists, with publishers, with media figures, with celebrities. And when we look at it, the people who aren't there, the sources. The whistleblowers, the people who actually that are the engine for all the stories that these media companies that when they proliferate the coverage or even some of the policy agenda, they forget. Everybody's there but us. So this year we're going to have our own. So we're going to. I'm sure it's not going to be as large, but this year for the first time we're going to collaborate with the other journalism organizations, the whistleblowers, and we're going to have the first ever Whistleblowers and Correspondents Solidarity Dinner.
Why aren't the sources there?
It's because we're the cog in the machine.
Okay.
We're the cog in the machine. And so in one sense, for us, from our perspective, if you blow the whistle, and sometimes like me, I'm a glutton for punishment. I've done it a couple of times. Yeah. But generally speaking, you have one story. You have one, whatever you blow the whistle on, that winds up being your life. Okay. Yeah. For a journalist, I need my sources can be interchangeable. As a matter of fact, there was one story when if you may remember when the VA whistleblower case first broke, there was the guy that actually broke the stories. His name was Oliver Mitchell. And I'm not sure if he was special ops. He was a Marine. He was really, a vet for real. And we never understood what is in his background, but they would tee him up for interviews and then pull him at the last minute. But what one organization did was take his evidence, run with the story, and substituted another veteran film.
Interesting.
So, again, so for the media organizations, they got the story out. For Mitchell, they took all his evidence and then squashed his story, his involvement. So it's those types of things that we fight, that we're trying to draw attention to. I don't necessarily
think he wanted anonymity?
Oh, no, he didn't. Later on, he got to the point where he no longer wanted us to talk about it. But he was a lot of what draws a lot of whistleblowers is they're actually trying to tell the story. But there are some whistleblowers who choose to they try to remain anonymous. But in the world that we live in, in my opinion, it's almost impossible. At some point in time, the world might not know who you are, but your employer knows who you are. It's they just kind of follow the tea leaves.
Yeah.
So we're happy about that, and then also we're going to do add a comedy showcase, really a tribute to Dick Gregory, something that we're working on. So we're going to do that on the 30th. And we just want to kind of talk about satire as a tool for advocacy. So we're really excited to be able to get together and actually press the flesh, break bread, share libations with each other. So we're happy. It's been 2 years totally virtual has been kind of tough.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be super exciting. And you couldn't have a better representation for satire as advocacy than Dick Gregory. So that's going to be a huge success. I want to go back to something that you said. There's so much to dig into, by the way, and thank you for that background. You talked about pitching and that, it's no slight to any filmmaker. And I completely agree with you. I think there's a sense out there that, okay, if you're bad at pitching, you should have some shame or embarrassment. Absolutely not. Especially if you're a whistleblower. It would be akin to going up to a punter that's on a football team and asking him what the quarterback was thinking on that interception. Like there's totally different jobs. So just because you're on a football team doesn't mean that you're going to be have full understanding and depth of somebody else's role or position. So same thing here. You're making a movie. We're all filmmakers, but it doesn't mean you know how to pitch right away. And so that's the whole point. The point isn't to, separate the good from the bad or whatever. It's really just to improve those skills so that your story can get told,
right,
more readily, easier.
Well, and also that you don't waste the opportunity.
Yeah.
That to me, that's the biggest thing. Is like, wow, man, you had 60 minutes and then you went too far.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I think if someone asked me and turned the tables on me and made me answer a question they were asking me for once, I would and ask me about pitching, which is kind of what happens when we go to festivals anyway. Mm-hmm. We end up having to, we're really answering questions. But if someone were to ask me, boil down what makes a pitch good in one sentence, I would probably just simply say, don't pitch anything that scares people. That's the whole thing. If you scare the money will go. And all the money wants is to have a safe place to land. And the more risky your pitch is, the more scared the money gets. Oh, this song is really important to the movie and you're not sure you have the rights. Oh, well, come back to me when you have the rights. Right. Oh, you have a musical that you want to make because musicals are hot right now. But you have no cast attachments, or you attached to cast and there's no one knows who they are, or your budget's through the roof on some project and the people in the room know you could make the same movie for 1/40th of the price, for example. So there are all these little things that we'll talk about. We always talk about these things, but we'll talk about at the Whistleblower Summit. I am curious, this is your 10th year. How often are documentary films an element of or play a role in the uncovering of an impropriety?
Trevor Noah made a joke that I think is only funny because it's true. And he says that now if you want to change the world, all you have to do is make a documentary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been where we are, because even as a whistleblower, the system has a way of covering up a lot of stories and a lot of cases. And ultimately, kind of the model that we use is essentially when you're blowing the whistle, the only way that you turn the tables is that you get society involved. And then the question becomes, how do you even notify society? And so that might be that episode, that interview on 60 Minutes. It might be that article that comes out in the Washington Post. But I'm advocating that it may just be that feature-length doc, or maybe not even a feature. But it's a tool to be able to talk to the general public and point them in the right direction. Because then once that goes, if you're successful, you'll get some other coverage and some pickup about it, and people will start now to like, Chris, tell me some more about this. Something seems wrong here. Yeah. And that's how you essentially alert the public. And in court, they say you don't want to try. The judges hate it when you try the case in the media. Well, sometimes the only way to win is to go to the court of public opinion.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the lady who blew the whistle on the Facebook algorithm, and don't know that her outcome. I think maybe she got paid. Facebook's going to move forward, but their brand and reputation has been besmirched in a meaningful way. And the most important thing is that now there are all these reports and white papers being written up on the effects of their algorithm on elections, childhood suicide, childhood
Chris,
depression,
the thing is, the whole concept of disruptors, that these tech companies came in and disrupted whole industries. Well, then when you turn around and you apply it to, you can feel one way or another about that, whether you're kind of pro-capitalism or not. But when you apply the same concept of disruption to our electoral system, to our government, okay, there's a problem. There has to be some limits to this stuff. And that's kind of when I'm watching this, I'm just kind of, the AI, the bots, the algorithms, and all this kind of stuff. Because I think we talked about it last time, the movie The Great Hack, that actually it didn't premiere, but we screened it at the Whistleblower Summit. I think that was either 2018 or 2019, right before COVID. And we had the Brittany Kaiser, the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower. And we had a Q&A session with it. And it was the whole thing is like mind-boggling as to what that case really was about. Now it's on Netflix, and I think anybody who's really interested should check it out. But it gets into that. How do you hack someone's mind?
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the thing that people might be sort of most concerned or afraid of, I think they would be surprised to know that already is here.
Right.
It's just that it's not scale. It's not at scale. Like,
is it?
A lot of, well, yeah, that's a good point. But it's. I guess what I mean by that is people think there's even distribution of goods and services, and there never has been ever. So what somebody might be enjoying right now that you wouldn't know about because they have, capital, will eventually get to you. But let's say the military, for example, is a great example. Like, they had computers in the 60s. By the time we could have them in our homes, it was the mid 80s, early 80s. So that's the kind of gap we're talking about. We're talking about a 2-decade sort of run on the technology before we even get a sense of it commercially, I guess is what I mean.
Well, you also have exponential growth too there. The time is truncated tremendously. And then also
Moore's Law.
The fact that you used to have a whole room full of computers to have, and the stuff that you have in your pocket now is much more powerful. So
yeah, it's exactly right. And the phone is definitely a little spy in your pocket.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
At all times. Yeah. It's fascinating. So on that same, keeping that same energy, as the kids say, if you had to give this audience one whistleblower film as the most impactful, what would it be?
Ooh. The most impactful. I again, the fact that I just said The Great Hack. I'm tending to stick with it, and the reason is that I don't think that we necessarily understand that we had state-sponsored level psychological operations being played on us within the United States. Mm-hmm. When I talk to people and they try to tell me that they saw The Social Network, I'm like, no, dude, The Great Hack. Yeah, you're close. It's related. It's kin, but no, The Great Hack. And it's fascinating to me because there are a lot of my progressive friends tend not to. They don't gravitate towards it. I'm like, you guys, you really have to understand this movie to understand what's going on now. They literally have mapped people's psyche across the nation because of permissions that you gave in Facebook. They're not only hacking your information, they're hacking all your friends. So those 5,000 friends that you have, they got their stuff. Their 5,000 friends, they got their stuff. And all of these little games and surveys and, the little cute stuff that we play, they built individualized profiles of your psyche so that they can target. It's one step down from the Minority Report when the ad says, "Hello, Chris. how would you like some tea today?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what's being served on the phones, on the little spy in your pocket.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree. It's remarkable. It's remarkable when you think about the idea that Facebook and Google might know you better, or likely do know you better than your significant other,
Right.
your parents.
I think there's something to say if they get 30 points of data, there's some number
Yeah.
that, with 30 data points, they know you better than the closest people in your life.
Yeah. And it's an extension of, I guess, MK Ultra, which,
oh, wow. There you go.
once, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Once somebody can figure that out, you think they just stopped?
Right.
They just like, oh, that was a fun experiment. We'll take all that information and throw it in the dumpster.
Right. Yeah.
No, they built upon it and progressed upon it.
Right. Well, and they're still running around. They say that they were supposed to have deleted the data set. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no way. And or they deleted a data set, but that doesn't mean there wasn't copies or whatever. And I mean, I look at stories like the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting from a few years ago, where apparently the shooter traveled from Alaska to Fort Lauderdale with no known motive, shot 5 to 8 people, I believe, and then was arrested without incident and didn't understand what he was doing.
Wow, I missed that one.
Yeah, you can Google it. I'll try to send you the link, and then I'll have Elise find it and put it in the show notes. But I look at cases like that and say, that doesn't make any sense. There was another case that Nick, for those in the audience that don't know, Nick is my co-host on this podcast and co-founder of Bonsai Creative. Mm-hmm. There was a shooting in Antioch, Tennessee, of a church by a black man who was young, in his mid-20s, I believe. And if you look at his Instagram posts and his social media posts, he posts things about working out, positivity, optimism, blessings and faithfulness and all this stuff. And then, like, literally the day before, he had all these uplifting posts, and then the next day he shoots a church up. Just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And you haven't heard anything about it since.
I'll tell you what, Chris, a
black church at that. Since when does a black guy shoot a black church?
Wow.
I don't think, the dog doesn't hunt to me.
Yeah. I think I might have to go with you on that one. Perhaps the next video documentary, we screened one a few years back, or we wanted to screen one a few years back. It was about MK Ultra. And I learned more about MK Ultra from that film. And it always has distribution problems. All of a sudden the links don't work. You can't. Seriously, man, it's crazy. But I learned more about MK Ultra from viewing that. From we were, because actually there was a guy that we were. He was up for a Pillar Award, and so we got to screen. And there's the guy who was long. It was like 3 hours, and I think that actually was the problem for the summit, was we couldn't screen it because the film didn't fit any block. It was just too long. But
what was the name of it?
I'll send the information back to you.
Cool.
But essentially, it was all about MK Ultra. And I'm one of these people that I heard the words and I kind of thought I knew. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. I did not know. I did not know.
Well, you're working on a documentary yourself called Whistleblower, Whistle-Blower. Tell us all about this documentary. I'm excited to learn more, excited for this audience to learn more. Mm-hmm. What was your motivation for doing your own documentary, and what is it about?
Well, essentially, Chris, this documentary documents my journey. I mean, I'm a person that I blew the whistle, bad things happened. I just, one day I made the decision to lean into it. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of covers where I came from, bringing my personal whistleblower experience by reporting $40 million worth of waste, fraud, and abuse in the Clinton administration, the experience that I had fighting the federal government, the joy that I felt when I won the case, and then the heartbreak that I felt when they covered up the victory and took that from me. And so it really tracks the a whistleblower's journey. And there's a kind of the motif is there are 5 tests to whistle. There's a paper that was written and presented in the Australian whistleblower conference a few years ago. But it is the one thing that most accurately depicts the whistleblower's journey. And so that's kind of, I'm using that it kind of as the blueprint to tell the story. And it intermixes my story, but then we also get into the history of whistleblowing, famous whistleblowers. Well, and that's because part of my journey, I tell people that rock bottom was the firm foundation that I rebuilt my life. And I did that by, my father gave me 2 things that helped me when I was suffering from suicidal depression. My father gave me A Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren's book, and I attended a whistleblower conference in Washington, D.C. And attending the conference gave me a sense of community. I'd found my tribe. And at that point, how I give back was to continue to move, to host the conference. And it has grown into the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival. And so part of that, so you'll get where I came from. And I tell people, is we talk about when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I got lemon drops, lemon zest, lemon meringue pie. I got lemon pizzas. I got a lemon plantation. Okay. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this thing work. And so at some point in time, I just decided to lean into it and decided that this was going to be my life's work. And I think, what was it? Was it Martin Luther King that said, if you haven't found something that you're willing to die for, you have not yet lived, or something along those lines. So I've kind of committed to it. And then I'm also educating other whistleblowers that as they try to navigate this journey themselves. And so that's a part of me giving back, me helping other people. And then I just felt like a long time ago, I felt the stuff that we were doing was important, even though I didn't necessarily always know how to get it out. So from just taking pictures when we were on the Hill to moving up to video. So I'm kind of the master of the arc of the Whistleblower Summit archives.
Yeah.
And so with that, and then also other stuff that I'm shooting is basic, that forms the foundation for the feature-length documentary.
It's incredible. And I don't know if it was Martin Luther King Jr. or if it was Malcolm X, but I think the quote was, if you can't find something to live for, you need to find something to die for. I think that was X, but yes. Martin Luther King MLK has one too. Yeah, something like that. But it's a good reminder to live that purpose-driven life, like the Mitch Albom book talks about, and I'm so thankful that your dad gave you that book because that perspective, because I think you're bringing something really important, to light and into the world, every day that you go out and you create and you do what you do. So kudos to your dad. Are there any films that you're really excited for the attendees of the Whistleblower Summit to see? Like, are there any films that are going to debut this year that
we're still doing the judging?
You're super pumped about.
Yeah, well, no, we're still going to doing the judging, so we're still in process, and I don't want to. There's one that I am excited about that's going to screen. It's Truth Teller. But there are more people than just me, so we're still going through all the judging and everything's still in progress.
Got it. Keep us posted. So you said Truth Teller was one of them, though?
Yeah, I think it's Truth Teller. Mm-hmm. Perfect. But there was but I tell you, man, I'm probably more excited about you guys coming.
Yeah, we're
really excited too. No, but listen, the journey has to start.
Yep.
And if you can't get the pitch right, it dies there.
Yep.
It literally dies there. And so I think when you were talking about pitching to filmmakers, there is a point where you're really discussing risk. That as a financer, I'm listening to all the things that you say that are risky, and therefore they're scary. If I'm a journalist, there's some point where I have to convince you that there's a story, and then I have to get out of my way. So I don't want to, and that's part of the problem that I have a lot of times trying to get whistleblowers to understand, because the old joke is that when you meet a whistleblower, they'll give you a suitcase full of documents.
Yeah.
Now it's a flash drive.
Yeah.
But the thing is what I want to do is I want to get enough attention and interest, spark enough interest, so that the reporter wants to hear more. Now, of course, they're going to tell you, show me everything. Do not show them everything. Okay. Because at this point in time, what they need to do is they need enough information to validate what you just pitched, that this is actually, there is some evidentiary support. Yeah. And so give them that. Then they're going to tell you again, show us everything. Do not show them everything, because anything beyond that point, they're looking for a reason to exclude you, to kill the story. Yeah. And a lot of times, if you just give them the sheer volume if you give them the suitcase full of documents, the sheer volume of documents prevents them from having to take the time to ferret out all your information to figure out what's relevant or not. And so what's going to happen is the mind that's confused always says no. Yep. And that's I gotta get my people to not push people to that point. And so
it's a great quote. It's very similar to investing advice that I got really young, was, if you don't know what the market's going to do nothing. Mm-hmm. If you don't know if the film's, marketable or has elements that you can believe in or not, then the best move is to do nothing and just kind of wait and see. Because, if a filmmaker is really going to make it like the movie, they're going to make it with or without you. And it's good to kind of do nothing sometimes. You sit back and you get to see what that filmmaker's next move is. Like, are you going to keep going, or did this no for now shut the whole thing down? Mm-hmm. Because if I expound on that sentence I gave earlier, it would simply just be that, okay, well, the second thing I'm looking for is who is and what are the behavior and traits of the founder filmmaker. And Nick and I, we call it founder filmmaker, because every film is an LLC, and you're really betting on, can that founder filmmaker execute the things they say they want to execute? Wow. And the same way you would invest in a startup, frankly. I mean, it's
the same thing.
It's you can understand. It's like, if you look at the thing that's going on in media now and across sort of television, is the tech stories, the tech series that have come out. First it was the Uber one with Travis Kalanick, Travis Kalanick, super pumped. Mm-hmm. Then it was We Crashed, the WeWork story about Adam and Rebecca Newman. And then then there was the Hulu one based on the podcast series called The Dropout, about Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes. Almost lost her name there, Elizabeth Holmes. And so when you look at each one of these cases, now I know I have friends that were pitched by and had interactions with both Elizabeth Holmes and Adam Newman. And so I have some insight, some firsthand insight, or at least secondhand insight into how they operate. And in each case, the bet is on the founder, and the investment is, oh my God, they're really going to do this. And if I don't invest in it, and they don't let me invest in it, right? Because they have all the leverage, they might not let you invest. If they don't let me invest in it, her product or his product is going to ruin my margin, and my business is going to be over. So the fear comes from the idea that the concept that the idea they have is so disruptive that their business is in jeopardy. A lot of time, the investor of the disruptive technology or product is the competitor, mm-hmm. hedging a bet, mm-hmm. Against the idea that this person might actually succeed. And so the same
That's
thing
crazy.
is kind of,
Right.
if that gives you an insight on how to pitch your film, and it should, that's kind of what you're looking at. Is like make it where, as an investor or as a producer even, I can't afford not to be involved in your film. That's an interesting way to look at it in my personal opinion.
That's different, Chris.
Yeah.
That's different. Yeah. Okay.
What would you say the current laws, or actually, would you say the current laws we have are adequate? The laws that protect whistleblowers, do you think those are adequate?
No, they're not. It's kind of an oxymoron to say that the whistleblower protection laws, there may be whistleblower redress, but there's no real protection. I mean, you literally have whistleblowers and journalists being prosecuted under the Espionage Act. I mean, once upon a time, you just lose your job. Now you can go to jail, if not worse. So that's kind of the landscape. And I don't mean to sound negative, but it's their common illusions that I have to try to help the people in my tribe understand. And to me, it's one of those things where, at the end of the day, any protection that you think that you may have by anonymity, it's probably you have more protection by being public. Think about this. At the end of the day, Daniel Ellsberg went on to become the greatest anti-war activist. He wasn't just staying in the shadows by the photocopier machine. Again, he leaned into it. And so, but and it's a little bit different when you're dealing with national security. There's some extra things you have to be careful about. But generally speaking, you're going to walk into almost a different existence, because seriously, Chris, what happens is when you blow the whistle, kind of your career has changed. And a lot of times you don't know it yet. See, there's a lot of times when there's a whistleblower, if you're medical, you're a doctor, you blow the whistle, you report something in the hospital. Are you a doctor if you don't have hospital privileges?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that where
you're certainly not a practicing one.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, guys, you may or may not realize, because you're like, well, I still got to pay Sally Mae, and I still have all this education, I still have this degree. But as a practical matter, you're not the doctor you once were. You're not the professional you once were. However, there is another door. You now may be that author. You now may be that filmmaker. You now may be that podcast producer, that reporter, that journalist, that blah, 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 whatever else it is. And I tell people that you just have to embrace the power of your story, and win, lose, or draw, because unfortunately, statistically speaking, most whistleblowers lose their case, not because they don't have good cases, but the impediments in the system make it very, very difficult to win. You're almost drawn to an inside straight. Yeah. But every whistleblower I know has an incredible story. And it's kind of like, what do you do with that story? How do you use it? Can you monetize it? Can you, use it for other good? Can you use that to kind of change your, for a new career? And that's something we talk about at the summit.
Yeah, I agree with you about, it's better to be public than anonymous. You're safer. I mean, you look at Chelsea Manning and you look at Snowden and how active they are on Twitter. Twitter's making it where, it would be very difficult, and it would be too obtuse to have something happen to them. If you're any state or government, they like it better the Julian Assange way. And I don't know how you feel about Assange. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I saw that he was extradited, and after being tortured, basically in a secret prison in the United Kingdom, and it looks like he's going to end up back here in the United States, and they're probably going to, torture him there. Maybe I don't see a good path forward for Julian Assange.
Yeah, my take on Julian Assange is, and people, tell you what, Chris, when they the movie The Fifth Estate came out, Participant Media did it.
Yeah.
They didn't screen the whole movie. They screened segments from it at the Whistleblower Summit. I forget which year. We were at the National Press Club. And some of the feedback from the whistleblowers was this. They were marketing The Fifth Estate as a whistleblower movie starring Julian Assange. But Julian Assange is not the whistleblower. Julian Assange is
a journalist, right?
Well, I would say he's a hacktivist.
Yeah.
All right. He's a publisher. The whistleblower was Bradley Manning. Now Chelsea Manning is the whistleblower.
Yeah.
And Chris, man, you could have heard a pin drop. When the people at Participant heard that they were marking a whistleblower movie that's a non-whistleblower.
Yeah.
And it was, so that's kind of my take with Assange is kind of how we define whistleblowing. It's a person who sees something wrong and tries to fix it. Somebody who has legitimate access to information, and they may now discover that it's being used poorly or used for infamous reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, we can accept that as a whistleblower. If I break into your house to steal your laptop, I'm a thief, not a whistleblower.
Yeah.
And so part of where we draw the line is some of the stuff that Assange was doing. It's mixed in the community. Me personally, I view that as a little lesser than I do. And even Edward Snowden, there's some questions about some of the stuff that he ultimately did. But
yeah. Because with Assange, you're right. He's the publisher. He's basically saying, I won't give you up as a source, but I'm not going to question how you got this stuff either, and then publish it. And
and also he's total truth. He's no secrets.
Yep.
And you got to understand that at some point in time in government, there are something. And now again, you always have the problem with governments are always going to want to overclassify things. So that's kind of a different issue. But I'm not really sure if we can live in a world where there are no state secrets.
Right.
Yeah,
I was having that conversation recently about the fact that there are infoists out there that think that nothing should be a secret. And there's a lot of just people living their life every day frustrated that they can't know every single thing about every single thing. And I'm like, you don't want to live in a world where
Right.
there are no secrets.
Right.
Like some secrets are worthy of being held and taken to the grave, both at the government level and at the interpersonal level. I think these last two generations don't fully understand that, and it's a big part of why our society has gotten a little.
They never grew up with privacy,
persecutory, and everything's feels like it's a referendum now.
Chris, there's now a generation, at least one, maybe two, that never grew up with privacy.
Yeah,
and they don't understand the concept. This turn on location tracking. No, I'm not turning on location tracking. It's bad enough as it is.
Yeah, because a lot of times the tech companies will ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Right.
And we only hear about the fact that these things happen after the fact,
right? After the fact,
and then after all the money sort of changed hands, and they figured out how to do the PR. And it's like sometimes months go by, and everyone, within the organizations, the tech organizations, knew that this breach happened or this thing happened, and then the public finds out, well after the fact. I am curious about. You mentioned something about your definition of a whistleblower. Do you or the whistleblower community give any credibility to those who reveal previously unknown facts or write a tell-all book, kind of like John Bolton's latest book, but they do it after leaving the office or after personal retaliation is no longer a factor?
Now, the thing about the people that we respect are people that tell the truth when they have something to lose.
Okay.
So that person who blows the whistle, who gets fired from their job and then blows the whistle after they're terminated, that we don't count that. or that person who really, if you're a part of the crime,
okay, yeah.
if you're a part of the crime, we really, really have problems with what you're saying. I mean, even though to get to the worst organizations, there are no innocent people. There are no angels in the mob. So if somebody's kind of blowing a whistle on the mob, it's okay. We do understand you have to be a bad guy. But if you're doing it after you've been caught and you're turning state's evidence to avoid further prosecution, if you're Sammy the Bull, we don't consider you a whistleblower.
Right. You're kind of like all of Trump's people now, where you were a minion when it was paying, it was lucrative, but now that your boss is seen less favorable, it's a good time to turn him over. It's not it's not exactly the most honorable.
That's not what we're doing here. And see, part of that is it's because we're trying to retake the moniker that the whistleblower shouldn't be a pejorative.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how what we have to do to kind of try to achieve that.
Yeah, I agree, because I think whistleblowing gets hurt by perception when you have a bunch of cronies become sort of feels like trusted names and sources for truth and information after the fact, like after they were called or after they avoided jail time. Because I look at like Scaramucci and I look at like the other dude that the lawyer that bailed on Trump and all these, like now they get on TV, they get interviews all the time. Right. We're expected to believe every word that comes out of their mouth because now they're the good guys and they're working for the quote unquote good team. I'm like, well, you're talking about somebody who has no compass.
Right. Absolutely. And so that's
they're not whistleblowers.
And that's the yardstick that we use.
Yeah, I love it. Do you think there's any progress or reforms that have been made in the past year or two as a result of some of these revelatory documentary films?
I'm not on the tech side. I still don't see it. To me, man, we have to get back to antitrust enforcement. Yeah, and nobody's talking about it. Section, what's the section with the immunity? Is it 205 or whatever that the thing that allows you to say anything or post anything and doesn't hold you to the same standard as a publisher. Something's got to happen there. And I don't see any movement, any real movement on the Hill towards it. I see them talking about it, saying it's bad, but I don't see anything really organized.
Are there any lobbies for it?
Well, you still have progressive people. Oh, you mean lobbies for maintaining, keeping those protections in place?
Right.
I mean, all the tech companies. I mean, they can, they're spending $1,500 million on both sides of the aisle to keep their favorite stuff. So there are lobbies.
Yeah.
To me, one of the most interesting things that I'm looking at now is Elon Musk buying Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've yet to hear someone really articulate how bad that is. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way I see it is most people don't really understand that as African Americans, we over-index on Twitter. That's why Black Twitter and Twitter, there's a concentration of journalists, reporters, and media people. That's why when you tweet something, I was starting to see stuff on my Twitter feed before it's on the news, before it's on cable.
Yep.
That's why Trump loves it. I can tweet something and I can change what's on TV.
Yep. So
when you have a platform that over-indexes, the only thing that we've had where Black people actually have more say on Twitter. And to me, that's why I believe that's why I was targeted. Is that Elon Musk wants Twitter because he wants Black Twitter. And I haven't seen anybody really kind of approach it from that perspective.
I haven't either. That's very interesting. I've heard a lot of arguments. I'm a people talk to me about it because I'm a Tesla owner, and I was early on Tesla as an investor as well. And been following Elon since I was in college, and he was doing PayPal before he sold that to eBay, along with the rest of the PayPal mafia. And I guess people could describe me as an Elon apologist. I don't think that I am, but I also fight with kindness and patience as best as I can. And so I'm not a guy who's going to have incendiary things to say about anyone. And I just try to look at it objectively. I'm a classic fence sitter. I think that's kind of why I'm a bit of a libertarian, but I've heard a lot of arguments on both sides. I haven't heard that one. And the bottom line is what the purchase does is it forces you to have to put a lot of faith and trust in one person or a small group of people. Based on his track record, I think I think he's fine. Better than Parag in that board that's doing nothing, that pushed out Jack Dorsey. But could it go sideways? Yeah, it certainly can, especially if the whole platform, this whole town hall for Black Twitter, for example, is reliant on the definitions that one sort of man sets. Right. So that's,
I think you're going to have wow. To a certain extent, he's almost like Julian Assange, or at least what I interpret him saying about free speech. It's kind of the other speech that I don't want the speech to be that free. That there are no rails. So you can take that free speech model to go back to the beheadings and whatever, you know what I'm saying? There needs to be some moderation.
He'll have to figure out I think the moderation is going to be around what's protected and non-protected speech according to the Constitution. I think that's a really good place to start.
I understand that only applies to government actors. The First Amendment protects a publisher's right to publish. It's not the people's right to know. It's a publisher's right to publish. Yeah. And so the reason that everybody was saying that you could kick Donald Trump off of Twitter and it wasn't a First Amendment issue is because Twitter is not a government entity. It's not the government censoring him. It's a private corporation. Yeah. Once somebody else controls a private corporation, now the shoe's on the other foot. So it's not whatever the Constitution will protect it because there's no government actor involved.
Oh, no, I don't mean it from a legal sense. I mean, from a policy setting standpoint, I think that's how he should do it. I think he should, if he really wants it to be a town hall for free speech in the world's town hall, I think you have to approach it from what's protected speech, what's not protected speech. And let's just start there and see if you can make it better than it was before.
I haven't heard him, nothing that I've heard him say about that free speech seems to indicate that point of view. I don't know if he'll do it, but I think he should do it that way. My theory on it, I haven't heard many people talk about either. So your theory was very, very novel. My theory is that none of his companies have PR and marketing departments. And he has been so successful on Twitter. He has over 89 million followers. So he has like the following of like the biggest pop stars and government officials in the world. Well, is that not because of your car?
Yeah.
It's Tesla, right?
You're right. It is. But here's the thing. He has all these companies, right? Like, I don't know if people realize how many companies he owns, including OpenAI and Boring Company and Neuralink and some of these Starlink and some of these more obscure companies that some people don't even know exist. Now he owns the marketing distribution channel. Right. That's why I think he did. I think it's like, I don't have a marketing department. I don't have a PR department. I am a PR department of one. if I own this, then I own one of the most powerful marketing and idea sharing platforms on the planet. And the other ones aren't for sale. So it's not like you can go out and get Facebook or IG or whatever, or TikTok. So now he controls not only his distribution stream for marketing and PR, but everyone else's.
For sale? Why do you say the other ones weren't for sale? I mean, it's all stock. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess controlling interests of Facebook isn't, right?
Right. Okay. But also just look what it's trading at. Like even Facebook in a slump is 4x, 5x the cost of
Twitter.
Yeah. And then they would be really crafty. That would be such to secure the money to prove, because that was actually the holdup with Twitter. People thought it was like Twitter freaking out, and maybe it was to a degree, but a big part of it was just simply, can you show us that you actually have this money? And so then when he showed that the funding was secured, then the whole thing went through, because they're fiduciaries and they have to push it through. I was
hoping the poison pill would work.
Yeah, the poison pill's an interesting play, but the poison pill is really bad for shareholders. And so again, you end up putting yourself at risk, because everybody that likes Elon or liked the deal would have turned around and sued. And it just wasn't, it was really well played chess by Elon, where he put this poll out on Twitter. Should he buy Twitter? Is it worth it? Do you think that free speech is important? Do you think that this is the town hall or whatever? And only until the very end did people think he was serious, because here's a guy who posts 69 and 420 jokes all day and memes. Mm-hmm. So I think people learned a lesson that Elon's pretty savvy. He doesn't run this because he's dumb. Like he can be kiddie and jokey, but he's a killer in business, and he hasn't taken a lot of business L's, for sure. This has been a blast. I just have a few more questions for you, by the way, and then I'll let you run.
Okay.
It's always good. Every time I get on a call with you, I learn. I leave smarter than I came. I'll put it that way. The one thing I wanted to ask you the last time we talked, Mike, that I didn't get to ask, and I was like, is what place, state, country, you name it, in your opinion, is the best refuge for a whistleblower that kind of needs to lay low?
Well, here's the thing. It's part of whistleblowing is a global phenomenon. But you really kind of need the First Amendment, because blowing the whistle here versus blowing the whistle in Saudi Arabia in a totalitarian government, very, very different outcomes.
Yeah.
So I hadn't really thought about that, because I hadn't been ready to flee yet, but perhaps I should think about it. Some non-extradition treaty, someplace with a favorable exchange rate and a beach.
Puerto Rico, maybe?
Yeah, well, that's us. Yeah. But so I don't know.
It's like it is us, and then it isn't us. I think something just passed where Puerto Ricans can't. Something around I can't remember what the law is, but I remember Puerto Ricans were disappointed.
I tell you, man, during work back when I had a job. I was working with the Clinton administration. There was a conference in Puerto Rico in Old San Juan, man. It's the most beautiful place.
I love San Juan, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. That was one of my to-do lists I literally felt
Tons
like
of history too.
Yep. I felt like I literally found God's neighborhood, man. I'm sure he's a couple houses down.
What a way to put it. And I think Peter Schiff lives there too. Like he's over there hoarding his tax benefits in gold in Puerto Rico. But I could see myself, going to an internet cafe and hanging out all day in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. The guy I was visiting with was I forget his name, but he was the president of Banco Popular. And we went to his condo, and his backyard was the fairway on a PGA golf course at the Western Resort. They actually had 2 golf courses, man. I was like, wow. One day.
What's your handicap, Michael?
Quadriplegic.
Ditto.
But
Ditto.
yeah, I love the styles. I love the gear. I love the 19th hole. I love the fresh air. I love everything up to actually hitting the doggone ball.
Yeah. I'm with you on that for sure. Once I get warmed up, I'm decent, but in the beginning, it's going to be ugly.
Well, no, Chris, for me, once it's over, then I can hit the ball. Once it's totally out of range, all of a sudden I can find I just relax.
Yeah,
and then
that's all it is.
Then I can find my swing.
Yeah, because golf is the biggest head trip of all time for any sport. What are the 2 best pieces of advice you've received in your life, and who did they come from? Your career.
Well, let me. I was kind of looking over some of those notes, and let me say this, man. When I would like to give some advice to future filmmakers.
Please.
And let me say this, because mind you, when I was coming up, I have a degree in producing film, video, and television. All right, not a film degree, not an MA, but a degree in producing. Mm-hmm. And so the business aspect is kind of what I look at. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when I got I did it. I went to the American University's School of Communications. That's where I got it. My thesis was actually I was in the federal government then, dealing with the empowerment zones, that federal community development package that we talked about before.
Yep.
And what my thesis project was, Chris, I decided that I was looking at the programs for real estate and developing. Then there was a lot of inner cities, essentially empowerment zone programs all across the country.
Yep.
What I wanted to do was to build a studio in one of these preferred areas, and then use it, have the production, have it to produce essentially Black movies because of the profitability. You know, you don't have to have blockbusters and when you can take $5 million and turn it into 60. And so that was the business model. I had gone so far as I found an award-winning architect. So essentially I had thought of what has now become Tyler Perry Studios in 96, 97. That was kind of my thing. Not to say that Tyler Perry stole my idea, but that's where I was, and that's how I was kind of viewing the business.
Right.
Long story short, that's where my life kind of slid down the whole the whistleblower path, and it threw me kind of off that game at that particular time. But from that experience and from that knowledge, I'll tell people, filmmakers in particular, to be intentional. It's know why there's a lot of stuff that you can do. Just know why you're doing it. Like because I have people now that tell me they want me to go, take all the archival footage from the summit and put it on YouTube. Okay, my question would be, why am I building another platform? Why would I do that? There could be an answer. It might be that I want to build the audience and become like Issa Rae, but it's not just go do something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not like I get my film, because a lot of times, and again, when I'm with where I am in the process of this documentary, I literally had gotten stuck. I'd gone all the way to applying to Sundance and applying for ITVS and all the little normal stuff, and everybody tells me no and keeps telling me no, tells me no again, but I'm not a quitter. But I literally gotten stuck, and kind of how I got unstuck was I found a community of filmmakers, and that was the Northeast Film Lab, which they're also going to be with the summit this year. So that's really helped me a lot. It helped me kind of move the progress forward. But it's the intentionality. It's a lot of times the filmmakers are the artists, but they need to have a producer's hat. You know, it's like, hey, I got this film and I can get it on Netflix. Well, all right, Netflix may take your film, but you didn't break even. You're losing money. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? Just to say that you're on Netflix? And I think that people aren't really analyzing it, and they're not necessarily intentional about the business.
Yeah.
And that's my recommendation.
Yeah. I love that.
That's my one piece of advice.
Got it. Love it. It's one piece instead of two, but it's one big one. That's really important. What do you think are the 3 best resources for whistleblowers online outside of the Whistleblower Summit?
Well, the whole point is that it's okay. The summit itself is a community, and it's the same philosophy I just told you about the filmmakers community.
Yeah.
That finding a community, being in a tribe actually helps those relationships.
Absolutely.
So the summit is one. I would say the next is there's an office of the whistleblower ombudsman, which there is actually an office on Capitol Hill now in the House.
Got it.
That they don't necessarily take whistleblower complaints, but they can help coordinate whistleblowers. And then also there's now a House and Senate whistleblower protection caucus. So that's a really great resource there.
Awesome. Do you know if you can reach that online, or is that something?
No, it's online.
Okay, got it.
You can reach them online. I can't remember the URL, but I'll find it and I'll shoot it to you so you can add it to the transcript.
Perfect. And we'll get at least added to the show notes. All right. Can you think of any others that are great resources?
The Make It Safe coalition, and that's essentially the coalition of advocates that support whistleblowers. So one is the Government Accountability Project, GAP. They're well known. Another is the National Whistleblower Center. Mm-hmm. They're very well known. Tom Devine, legal director of GAP, has a book called The Corporate Whistleblower Survival Guide. Yeah. Great book. And Stephen Coyne, he used to be the executive director of the National Whistleblower Center, but he has a book called the Whistleblower's Handbook. So those are 2 really tremendous resources for whistleblowers.
Absolutely. We'll have all those links for people to click on in the show notes regarding those really important and critical books. And speaking of important and critical, that's the Whistleblower Film Summit, Filmmaker Summit. It's coming up July 22nd through the 31st. Michael, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, on the internet, where they can see some of your work, buy your book, and get more information about the summit?
For the summit, go to www.whistleblowersummit.com, whistleblower singular summit.com. And actually, you can find links to my book there. We have a section for whistleblower books. So actually, you can pick up the Whistleblower Survival Guide and the Whistleblower's Handbook there as well. My book, of course, is Race, Power, and Politics, Memoirs of an Acorn Whistleblower. You can get that at the website, Amazon. You can also get it everywhere books are sold.
Is there an audiobook version of that, Michael?
There is not an audiobook version of that, but okay, I may need to hire you to do that for me.
I'm down. Let's do it.
And my personal website is Michael McCray, MICHAEL, MCCRAY, .net. And so that's doing some more work on it. I'm trying to kind of develop my speaking page. So there's some soon to be updated. And of course, if you want to know more about the Acorn 8 and that journey that allowed us to create the Whistleblower Summit, you can go to www.acorn8.com. Again, that's acorn8.com. On social, I guess on Twitter, the few followers that I have, it's at McCray Author. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I have kind of a better following there. And I forget my LinkedIn handle, but I'll send all of that to you, Chris, so you can at least have that in the notes.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can search Michael McCray and they'll be able to match up the one that's you, based on your background and what you're all about, for sure. And you can also find the Whistleblower Summit on Instagram as well. They have a little page there, so make sure to follow them. And we can leave it on this. Do whistleblowers face any new threats following the January 6th events from 2021?
I don't really think the threat changed after. I think the biggest threat was actually under the Obama administration, when we saw the prosecutions under the Espionage Act increase. I know there are a lot of people that don't want to hear that, but that's really when the landscape changed. I think under the last administration, there were just so many lies. I mean, when our commodity is the truth, we were just inundated with lies. Yeah. And it seemed kind of paralyzing for a lot of our community. I'm like, there were a lot of people, even with the, we fought long and hard to get House and Senate whistleblower protection caucuses, and they were like MIA. So that was, and I think they were just overwhelmed by the last administration. So we're hoping, just like with bringing the White House Correspondents' Dinner back, we're hoping to bring some sanity back with this year's summit and getting things going back on the right track. So I don't think there's anything in particular that's happened since January 6th that's significantly different than what's been going on the last couple of years.
Got it. Well, man, this has been incredible, as I knew it would. Keep fighting the good fight. I know we're going to be in touch very, very soon. And for those listening, do take heed. Go follow Michael McCray everywhere you can find him. The books are powerful that he recommended. Also, make sure to go out and get his book. You can also find transcripts and show notes of this conversation at www.bonsai.film or on the podcast player of your choice, whatever you're listening to this on. So, Mike, until next time, and stay safe. And I can't wait to be part of the summit and see you in person.
All right. Appreciate it, Chris. Take care.
Anytime. Be good.
All right.
Peace. You've been listening to the Make It podcast. To find out more information about this week's topics, including links to relevant blog posts, projects, and indie creatives, please visit our website at www.bonsai.film. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast community on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice by searching for Make It Bonsai Creative, and the show will pop right up. You now have the opportunity to support the production of this podcast. If you love Make It and are a true fan of what we're trying to accomplish in the indie film community, please visit www.bonsai.film and click Contribute. Contributions start at only $5 monthly. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _Bonsai Creative, and on Facebook by searching for Bonsai Creative. You can provide feedback to us via email at contact@bonsai.film, and you can follow me, Chris, on Twitter at FlamingYourHeart. That's FlamingYurHeart. And of course, if you're looking to take a big step towards your filmmaking success, go to www.bonsai.film and click on Services to explore a variety of offerings, from keynotes and panels to pitch readiness assessments and so much more. You have everything to gain. Until next time, be better, be creative, be engaged, and thank you for listening.